Hi guys, and welcome back. It's been a minute now. That has been like an hour, not a minute. And it's good to be back. As you can see, I've been really working on my eyebrows. Imagine, for all the years I've lived on this earth, I haven't known how to do my brows, but I'm trying. I just need to shave them and try again. I promise. That's a tutorial I'm going to share with you. For those who are really struggling with the eyebrows, I know no one is in this day and age. But yeah, I've been working on that and also on this. Now, sorry, my t-shirt is a bit revealing all over, but I had to wear black so you can easily see it and see how cool this thing is. Now, this is something I made for myself, and I thought it would be lovely to share with you guys how to make this. Now, I made it from scrap fabric. These are fabrics from when I started sewing almost 2 years ago. Yeah, that's when I got a sewing machine. So some of them are really old. I don't own the full fabric, so I just cut the strips, made them to strips, and made it. Now for this project, you will need stripes of fabric. So if it's scrap fabric, you have to make sure it's in stripes of around 2 inches. You might use a sewing machine if you have one, or you can even use your needle. It will take you a long time, but trust me, it will be worth it. And you will also need some waste newspapers or khaki papers. I'd recommend you use very soft paper for this project, because if you use hard one, you'll see. I'll explain it to you why hard one might be a problem. So you might need some newspapers. Newspapers are perfect, yeah, just as your template. And then yeah, I'm gonna walk you through how I make this, and hopefully you guys can also get to make some and share your projects with me. And I promise I won't be lost for an hour again. I'll try and make it a minute. Good to have you back, and I hope you will enjoy this lovely project. It will be worth your time. See you in a bit. Good luck. So again, the first thing I did is I took all the strips of fabric I had. I decided to use different types of fabric to just give it that color and a blend of patterns and stuff like that. So what I'll do is I joined them together, but now trying to make sure that all your raw edges are on the same side, because you will need to hide those in the end. You don't want edges that are protruding. So all the joints, the places where you're joining them should be on the same side. And then I'm going to neaten the edges by folding it in just like you do with the seam. Okay, so you ensure that that edge is on the inside like that, and then you're gonna fold it, having in mind that you want that on the inside. And then I ironed it, like you can see, all the way to the end, ironing it all. And then you have an option of actually stitching it together, or stitching it together while attaching it to your template. So you can either stitch it together at this stage, which is what I did for this video. But if your straight stitches are not very straight, you can choose to skip that bit as long as you've ironed it, and stitch it while attaching it to the template. Now it's time to prepare that template. Now remember, I told you will need a soft paper to do this. In this case, I used this. These are shopping bags from the supermarket that I used, and thought to reuse them for this project. So I'll just have to join them together to make sure I have the right size of paper for my project. Now at this point you can use your newspaper, which I would really like to. I haven't tried it, but I think it would really be awesome. I'll show you why in the end. This paper gave me a little bit of trouble towards the end. A khaki paper. If you can find a softer khaki, then good for you. If not, newspaper works perfectly well. Now again, the size of this paper will be determined by the size of your necklace. In my case, I chose a necklace that's 8 inches from the middle. So I had to make sure that my paper measures 8 inches from the midpoint of this paper, or rather 10, just to give it an allowance. But if you want a bigger piece, then you might have to join more pieces of paper to make a bigger template. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So the bigger the necklace, the more pieces of paper you might want to join, or the bigger the paper you will require for your project. Next thing I did is I marked the midpoint, and I marked a radius of 3 inches. That's because I would have wanted it to stick to my neck, although it didn't. I'll show you why I think I made the mistake. So I chose 3 inches for this particular neck piece for my neck, That's just like the neck hole. So 3 inches, and then I'm going to join them up together to make them a circle. Now if you feel your neck is bigger, you might make this radius slightly bigger, maybe 4 inches or 5 inches, or depending on the effect, the final effect you want on your necklace. Then that's where your creativity comes in. It's an art, you know. All right, so once I've marked the midpoint and the center and that in a circle, then I'm gonna fold my fabric, my paper in half. We're still making the template for a necklace. So I'm gonna fold my paper in half, making sure that the halves lie together. So the edges are not that important, but I need to make sure the circle, as I fold, I maintain the shape of my circle in the middle. And then I'm gonna fold it again in quarter. So now I have quarters, and yep, make sure you lie it flat. Now think about your origami lessons. Press it flat on the floor or the table, whatever you're working it on, ensuring that that circle in the middle stays uniform, like on all the 4 pieces of papers. I hope it makes sense at this point. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the diameter of the neck piece. That is from the middle point, or rather from the neckline, the circle I drew, to where I want my neck piece to lie on my shoulder. In this case, I chose 6 inches because I don't want it very big. Again, because I'm also very tiny. So I wanted 6 inches so it can just lie just slightly over my shoulders, like beyond my shoulders. So I marked 6 inches from the line of the neck, from the neckline, 6 inches. Again, you can make this 7, you can make it 9, you can make it 10, depending on the width of your shoulders and where you want your neck piece to go to. If you want it a bit longer, then you might have to do a longer markings or the bigger markings for your piece. But in this case, 6 inches I felt would be sufficient for my neck and the effect I wanted. So I'm gonna then cut along my chalk markings, so the outer one and the inner one, and I'll be left with my template. This is where the magic happens. Done with the outer one, then I'm gonna chop off the inner one. Just wait for the magic, and then I will have my necklace template. And then what I decided to do first is fold it a bit further. So I'm gonna fold it. Now remember, you want to press those folds down because I will need them. So press them down and fold one last time like that. Press them down, please, because you will need them. Again, just to remind you how I folded: half, quarter, eighth, and 16th. So like I have 16 folds on this piece of paper, like you can see, ensuring that you press those folds nicely, again, just like in your origami lesson. And voila, I have the template. Now I'm gonna take my chalk and mark for you the folds, because you need to know where the folds are. Now if you're using a newspaper, the folds should be a bit more obvious. This paper was a bit stressful, it's a little hard. So just to mark where the folds are to give you an idea of what I mean by folds, those are the folds. And then I'm going to take my strip of fabric and I will sew them on the folds like that. So if I sew, I get there, I chop, I go to the next fold, I chop, I go to the next fold, I sew, I chop. Again, remember, I said you can also use your hands. I haven't tried, I wouldn't recommend glue, however, because I'll need to take off the paper. So if you use glue, then you'll have a very hard time taking off the paper. But here, see, this is what I mean. You stitch, you cut. Remember, I had one long strip of fabric, so you stitch, you cut, you put it where you want it to be. Now I'm just moving around because my fabrics are different colors and I wouldn't want the same colors together, so I'm trying to make sure they're well blended and evenly distributed, the colors. So that's why I'm twisting it around, just to make sure I achieve that. So yeah, so I'm gonna do that for the rest of it until I finish my 16, I guess 16 folds. All the 16 folds are covered like that. Now once you have that, you already have the template. You can see your necklace coming up. Like, look at it. It's starting to look like a necklace, isn't it? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna mark the places where I want to stitch my circular fabrics, like those that cut across, because we need like a web for this. And because I felt like these 16, or rather these stripes, are already too close together and they're quite thick, I thought to just do 2 inches apart for the diagonal, no, horizontal. Oh, I hope I'm getting this right. Mathematics was hard, people. For the horizontal strips, yeah, that should be horizontal. Yep. So I did 2 inches apart, like you can see, and I marked the whole of it 2 inches apart. One will be the neck, at the neck. The other two will be somewhere in the middle, and the last one at the edge. And done. So I'm gonna take my strip again and attach it. So I'm gonna start outside coming in. Again, I'm supposed to attach it all the way around, like you can see. Now, sewing a circle is not the easiest thing, so be very patient with yourself and with your work. Don't rush it. Try not to pull it a lot, because it will look ridiculous when you pull it a lot. I tried pulling in. Yeah, I didn't like the effect on the middle one. So try not to pull it. Now, remember when I told you mine ended up becoming a bigger neck than I intended? This is why. When I stitched my first circle, I split that bit. I don't think I should have done that. I should try another one and see if it works. But I don't think I should have done that. That's just made it a bit wide when stitching the others. I don't know, just my thinking. I could be wrong. But I shouldn't have split it at that point. I should have attached all the 3 and then split them after attaching the 3 of them. But either way, I love what I came up with. So this fabric will not be enough. I'll have to get some more pieces of fabric to finish off my project. I won't show you how I did that. You can also do that by yourself. So I'm just going to do it and attach the other 2 middle horizontal strips, and then I'm going to come back with what I've done and show you. So this is it. I already attached the middle ones, and now it's time to neaten the edges. Now see, there's some protruding pieces that are quite raw, so we have to make sure those ones are well tucked in and covered, and that's what I'm doing right now. So with my strip of fabric, this one is not joined, as you can see, so it's just open, just pressed, nicely ironed and open. I'm gonna put that one on that side to neaten that bit out, and then I'm gonna put the other one on the other side to neaten the other side out. Now, good thing with these things is every time you do one, you realize there's something you could have done better to make it even look better. And at this point, I thought, if I had attached those 2 on the very last, I don't know, it wouldn't make sense when I'm just explaining it. But anyway, I ended up with that. Only that on the edge, I ended up with 2 strips very close to each other, which I think is okay for me. Then the last bit you're going to do is remove your paper, your template. Now this is why I said you need a soft, this is why I said you will need a soft piece of paper, because then if you have a hard one, the stitches will come out, but if you have a soft one, it becomes easy to remove. This one gave me a little bit of a hard time, but it eventually came out. Then I pressed it down, and that's the finished product. I really enjoyed making this. It took me a whole lot of time, but it was worth it. I hope it will be worth it for you, and thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Please subscribe.